Why do women make unrealistic expectations and standards when dating? I don't know, but we discuss it on today's podcast of Black Fly on the Wall. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, but most importantly, drop it in that group chat. We want to hear what you think. Thank you for the love and support.
Today's expectation on dating, women see stuff on Instagram and expect to, meet someone who has, unlimited amounts of money
Mm-hmm.
to court them. And, they kind of don't want to really give anything in return for that. They just want to
That's
kind of
key.
be that pretty face and I deserve it off the rip on
Right.
nothing.
Right.
So,
And that
go
was a
ahead.
major point that you said about social media, and I like how you expanded on that because I do think that's a statement that's said pretty often, but it's like a very large statement that isn't honed in on a lot. And I think whenever you talk about social media, there's no issue with social media. It's just that you're using social media as your standard.
Yeah,
You're
as a
using
scale.
that as your bar, and that should definitely be the last thing on your table. Honestly, you should use your friends as more so of a standard before you talk about social media because you're choosing to congregate and interact with people that hopefully you admire, right?
The greatest, the greatest.
I'm a star, shine bright like neon. The new Space Jam like LeBron. I'm out of this world like Elon. To catch up, it'll take a eon. Prime time nigga like Dion. I'm out of this world like Elon. I'm a star, shine bright like neon. The new Space Jam like LeBron. I'm out of this.
So we back again.
Let's
with
go.
another dope episode of Black Fly on the Wall, the podcast. Today, we're gonna get into the topic, but first let's introduce the cast to my right. Sam, introduce yourself.
What's going on, y'all? Y'all know who it is. Sam, Master and the Man, co-host Black Fly on the Wall. Let's go.
Let's get it. To my left, the 919 legend.
Hey, I'm Colton Palmer, of course, from Durham, North Carolina, Bull City.
Here we go.
I got to keep that rolling. We're always gonna rep the Bull.
Y'all see his product right there.
Oh yeah. So Bedlam Vodka. I will tell you a little bit more about it later, but
Nice.
we sipping on it.
Yes, sir.
Y'all gonna make me go after that?
They know who you are now.
Man, talking. My name is Duke. You can find me at Dr. Duke DDS. Happy to be here, man.
Nice. And today we are joining a special young lady. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Dorothy, D.Marie on Instagram.
All right, get the followers up. All right.
Hey,
All right, that's what's up. So today's topic is: do women set unrealistic standards and high expectations when dating? And before, we always know that good art is listening more than you speak. So we want to definitely get your opinion on that as a woman. And how old are you?
I'm 35,
Okay, and are you married, single, in relationship?
divorced.
Okay, all right. So that we just ask you that so we can get a little perspective of where you're coming from. So what is your opinion on that? Do you think women of today's generation set unrealistic standards and high expectations when dating?
I definitely say so. I'm going to definitely blame social media for that.
Okay.
I was raised in a very different environment from most people. I have parents who were born in the 50s. So I was raised by, my mom is almost 70. So
Okay.
grew up watching her and my stepdad interact. That's the expectations I have on a man, like courtship, protection, pamper, and reciprocating. Um, Today's expectation on dating, women see stuff on Instagram and expect to, meet someone who has, unlimited amounts of money
Mm-hmm.
to court them. And, they kind of don't want to really give anything in return for that. They just want to
That's
kind of
key.
be that pretty face and I deserve it off the rip on
Right.
nothing.
Right.
So,
And and
oh,
that
go
was a
ahead.
major point that you said about social media, and I like how you expanded on that because I do think that's a statement that's said pretty often, but it's like a very large statement that isn't honed in on a lot. And I think whenever you talk about social media, there's no issue with social media. It's just that you're using social media as your standard.
Yeah,
You're
as a
using
scale.
that as your bar, and that should definitely be the last thing on your table. Honestly, you should use your friends as more so of a standard before you talk about social media, because you're choosing to congregate and interact with people that hopefully you admire, right? And so, or like-minded with yourself. And so, yes, I do agree with you on that as far as social media being a standard. So,
I think one problem with the social media part that you're talking about is that the people we follow on social media are people who we want to be, not people who are like us, right? And that goes back to what you're saying, like, set your bar amongst the people that you aspire to be around, not the people that you just see on Instagram and stuff like that.
your network is your net worth.
There was a major word that you said that I loved, and I think this is the word that's missed, and that's reciprocation. I think that's the standard that we're missing. We got everything else, the money, the courting, the loving, all that, but it's the reciprocation part of it where I think men feel like that's the lacking, especially with these standards. They're like, okay, I can do all this, but what am I getting in return? And not so much of like, what can you do for me? But it's like, how are you appreciative of what's going on and what's happening in the relationship?
Absolutely. Colton, what you got on that?
Man, I just got to say, like, when it comes to standards, just in my personal opinion, when it comes to women lowering standards or should they maintain those standards, I think the standards should be more so based on a human level, ethical, moral. Never drop those standards of the type of human being you want to be around. When it comes to financial, there are a lot more things to take into consideration with financial, where that gentleman may be in his life, where he wants to go. Of course, you want to, meet someone that's on the right trajectory, but he may be on his way there.
Yeah.
And you don't want to miss out on that person, especially if you all have a strong human connection.
Absolutely. And the echo what you're saying is that, it's a lot of unrealistic standards, because I feel like women don't understand how men fit into the puzzle of life. And so sometimes you're trying to take a man that's a certain puzzle piece size and fit him into a space that he technically does not and is impossible to fit in. A case in point being this, we echoed this statistic on a past episode when we're talking about men making the average of $42,000 a year. But the stat is that most men don't hit their financial peak or their financial high earning stride until they're 40, 45, 50, 55 years old. Typically, if you're on a good trajectory, it's 40 years old. But all honesty, 45 to 55 years old. And so if you have the expectation that I'm going to go out here, I'm 25 years old, and I'm going to get a 25-year-old man and I have this standard that I'm placing on him that he's going to make this amount of money, you are already losing and going to mess yourself up when it comes to how you view relationships, right? And so we oftentimes in the chat talk about trade-offs. It's like, okay, let's say money, okay, let's go with your scenario. Let's say money is that important to you. Go date an older man that's more so hitting that financial peak and that financial stride. If money is not that important to you and you're willing to work with, like Colton said, a man that you see his trajectory is on that path, he's doing well now, but in 10 years you can put your last dollar on it that he's going to probably double or half the time his salary, then you may want to pick a man that's more so your age and is on that path of gaining more wealth later on in life. But it's unrealistic for women out here that's dating their, whether they're 30, 35, or 40, and expecting for men to have this amount of money, especially when the median income of a black family right now is $24,000. Go ahead, Duke.
Just tracking back to the expectation aspect, right? From what I've seen and heard, because I was raised by women, effectively, right? Sisters, majority of the people around me were women. Didn't really have a choice in that. But from what I hear in that space and in those thought circles, et cetera, those schools of thought, the expectation is I want a traditional husband. That's a man that's going to provide, protect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they're not expecting on their end to be traditional wives in any sense, right? Don't ask me to cook. Don't ask me to do this, that, and the third. I just came back from work. Now you want X, Y, and Z, but you want that man to stay in his lane while your lane has all effectively shifted, right? And so I say it this way: women have evolved, men have not. That's not a derogatory or detrimental statement against or towards men. It's simply that we have a linear way of thinking.
Absolutely.
We are going to continue to protect, provide, et cetera, et cetera. That is what we are, who we are. That's our foundation. It's low-key ingrained, right? The issue now is that our women have taken on those very same roles. Right? And so now we're looking at them saying, we expect this from you, but we can't get that because they have now achieved a different level of independence.
Absolutely.
Right? And that independence in and of itself has detracted from our quote-unquote relationship dynamic because what they're expecting from us hasn't changed, but they have.
Absolutely.
Right?
Wait, what you got for that on that, Dorothy?
What Duke is saying is very true. So most Black women grow up in a household, I hate to say it, with single Black moms, watching their moms do everything on their own. So they are in a mindset of, I have to be a strong Black woman. Like, I have to be able to provide for myself, sometimes even with the mindset of, I don't need a man. So when they do come across a man that they feel like they may want, they've never really had that upbringing and kind of grooming to have a man of that caliber.
Absolutely.
So they're definitely going to like constantly butt heads because she wants to lead and he wants to lead.
And I would say I will echo your statement because it's changed. Our grandmothers' era knew that they needed a man to survive because of where Black people were as a community, socioeconomically, right? The men were working in the factories. Very few of them had education. The women could hardly get work because white feminism really didn't support Black women also excelling and being able to get out of the house as well. So their women, our grandmothers' culture and their generation knew that. But then they dealt with a lot of different things where they taught their children you don't need a man. You now have government assistance. You now can go to college. You now can do all these things that I was unable to do. So you don't need a man. And so now we're having the ramifications of that culture that was taught that. So I feel like all in all, what you're saying is very true. Like we hear it a lot. Go get your education, go get your education, go get your education. Not these are the tools I'm going to teach you to be a feminine woman and to be a wife one day. It's kind of like get your education, figure out how to be a wife later. You know,
or be a wife when you become a wife.
Right.
Yeah. Now you gotta be a wife before that.
And that's
please do us all a favor.
And that's so whenever that happens, you're winging it. You know.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like as men, and Sam, I'm gonna let you go. As men, it's kind of like Duke was saying that protect, provide. You're taught that at a very young age as a boy, especially if you have a sister. Right. If you have a sister, you're taught that, and so like even if it's not told to you, this is what a husband is to do. You're easily able to identify with those roles because you've been doing it. Right. But as a young girl, like if you have older brothers, are you in the kitchen with your mom learning how to cook? Like, are you in the kitchen with your mom and she's preparing dinner? Are you serving your brothers, putting their plate on the table and setting up the fork and the knife and all those different things like that? And so like, are you learning those feminine roles or are you solely focused on your education?
Can I ask Dorothy a question?
Yeah.
Dorothy, what's your take on the term or use of the term serve?
Well, like I said, I grew up with a mom who's almost 70. So naturally, serving a man is almost vice versa of what I expect from him to do. So like I expect him to take care of me, I'm going to take care of him. I'm going to serve him, make sure when he comes home from work, make sure house is clean, dinner's prepared, taking care of him as I expect him to take care of me.
Can we add?
What do you do for a living, Dorothy?
I'm a hygienist.
Okay, so you have a legitimate profession.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a dental hygienist. I work 4 or 5 days a week.
I wanna can we just add in the fact of if that's what's needed, right? Because she's saying make sure the house is clean and stuff like that. I want to add in that if that's what's needed in the relationship. I don't want it to seem like the only way to service your man is make sure the house is clean and stuff like that.
Right,
oh no,
that will be
very minimal.
On, right.
Yeah. I'm just gonna add it, but
they will key in on that.
Dorothy, I do want to ask you because we talked about the social media aspect of stuff and of relationships. Do you feel like we're more entertained by relationships now than inspired by them? That's a good question. And I ask that because a lot of the real expectations that are set on men are from an entertainer's aspect.
Take
Like,
me out,
yeah,
buy me
you
here,
like,
show me this,
oh,
give me
you know,
that.
Moneybag Yo just bought his girl the
Lambo
range.
truck,
It's like,
right.
but that's Moneybag Yo.
That's
He's an
Moneybag
entertainer.
Yo.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
a lot of men are
went
not
to college.
entertainers. Like,
And what's funny about that is generally those reposts and thought processes
Yeah.
are coming from very, very regular women,
yeah,
right? And I don't mean regular in the sense that they are not worth pursuing or
Yeah.
actively treating, but regular in the sense that you're not the woman that Moneybag Yo's talking to.
Yeah.
First of all. You're not in that space
Yeah.
to be even receiving.
ain't never
that
seen a
type of-
Lambo.
You feel what I'm saying?
Talk about he need to buy me a
The
Lambo.
people around you probably work at a call center. So why you worried about a Lambo truck? You feel what I'm saying? So in that space,
Hey, I love my call center girls.
my point is this. It's the unrealistic expectations that are hurting us, right?
Facts,
Expectations are good because that's where reciprocity comes from.
Right.
You can't have reciprocity without first having an expectation. Effectively, you put out a modus operandi, and you're like, this is what I'm expecting. And if I'm expecting this, I'm going to give this. And if I'm giving this, I'm expecting what?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? So in that space, like we gotta be more realistic, which is what we're saying when in regards to. I don't like the term humbling themselves or humbling
Yeah.
yourself. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about simply being realistic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Simply looking at your surroundings, looking at what's around you, and saying, okay, this is my quote unquote playing field. Right? You ain't in the playing field with Moneybag.
Yeah,
Right.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
If you were, you wouldn't be reposting about Lambos. You probably
Yeah.
have one. You
Yeah,
know?
that's real.
So it's just
That's
like
real.
in that space for men and women, for real. For men and women, because a lot of men look at that and they be like, dang, I hate that this is happening. Or I
Yeah.
hate when I see my brother, that ain't even got nothing to do with
Nope.
you.
nothing.
Stay,
You feel what I'm
stay out
saying?
the way.
Stay out the way and stay in what? Your lane.
Yeah.
How you feel, Dorothy, about the inspire versus entertain?
That's very true because of social media.
bar.
We'll see celebrities, entertainers, influencers buying girls Birkin bags and stuff like that. Like, you don't even make that amount of money in a year. What are you going to do with a Birkin bag?
Why you want a Birkin bag and a Honda anyway? Like,
Exactly.
Somebody gonna question it anyway. Yeah, yeah.
Like, why you, man, at least,
2003 Nissan.
at least-
Yeah.
You know,
right.
Buy me a house.
just those new Teflon bags.
Yeah, buy a house.
yeah.
Yeah, buy, right. Colton, I saw you, like you ready to jump out of your skin.
He got his notes
Colton,
ready.
like,
He got his notes ready.
Because I just, it's almost like I just would like to take a further step back. So like, we oftentimes associate standards and values. You know, your values have to align with your standards. So if you value money the most, you know, or even the whole construct of you know, social norms and roles and things like that, I think we've been very, I can't say very, we've been 100% influenced by Eurocentric, you know, society, and
Absolutely.
colonization, things like that. And that was more, those roles, those societal norms were more so thrust upon us as opposed to, you know, our indigenous cultures. And I don't mean to jump too far back, but, you know, if you look at indigenous cultures at that time, prior to colonization, there was a lot of, you know, kind of for the team when it came to a relationship or a man and a woman in the family. So the roles and saying this is a, you know, masculine role, this is a feminine role, I need to do this, I need to do that. That's I think is a very Eurocentric approach to a relationship. And I don't think that's necessarily right all the time.
Right.
And that Eurocentric approach has put money at the top of it.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to the human side of it. So, you know, I would of course I want to make a lot of bread. I love my girl to make a lot of bread. Not a big deal. She makes more than me. None of that stuff really matters to me. But at the end of the day, if as human beings we're not on the same page in terms of what we actually value, then we could be super rich. But now I'm in this room, she's in that room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying?
You make a good point, Colton. You make a good point. Not to detract from your point, but the circumstances are definitely different.
Oh, absolutely.
And so in this space, we live in a capitalistic we live in capitalism, right? So effectively, money has to be at the forefront. Otherwise, you ain't gonna survive. So it's just like, yes, I understand, and I look at the humanistic side of things, but at the end of the day, the humanistic side of things ain't gonna pay the bills.
Yeah, it's at the forefront for me as an individual, but not how I choose my partner.
But see, what I
agree.
like of what he's saying though, and this is what I'm taking from it, is that we have people who have money at the forefront but don't have any money. Like, how can you value? How can your number one value be money and you ain't got it.
Talking about a bag you ain't got.
But you're requiring this from other people. It's like you trying to get people to save you instead of saying, you know what?
Right.
I value money. I take care of my money. And if you realize if you take care of your money and do the things you're supposed to do, it'll put you in those circles where somebody will have equal or more than what you have.
No bag, but got the
Let's go ahead and say
expectations
this
of the
before they
bag.
jump on it. We know that this is not all women.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
got to add that in.
absolutely.
Got to add that in.
Right? We get it. You know what I mean?
So Dorothy, yeah, you made some very pivotal points. Is there anything you want to, any other points you want to make before you dip out today?
So to follow up on what he was saying, I'm very big on don't expect what you don't have. Like if you want someone who's fit, be fit. If you want someone who has money, have money. Like don't, stay in your playing field.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I want a man with a six pack, but you got a keg, So it's like,
it's not
it's
working.
like, come on, man. And honestly, that's something that we don't talk about enough. And that's the biggest thing that I always say is that like a lot of women don't hold other women accountable. And so, but a lot of times you will see a lot of fellas, even if you barely know the man, you may hold him accountable. Like he may post something on the gram and you may like, bro, like I really don't rock with that. Like this is my perspective on this. Right. But it's like you get a lot of women either turning their head or applauding it, even though they really don't believe in it. And so like this whole hype culture and social media and they in their DMs and they on their comments.
Girl power.
And this whole woman 007 thing is like, it's like, yo, really, if women hold each other more accountable, more consistently, we wouldn't have a lot of the issues that we have, right? Like an example would be this. How many babies do you think we would be born out of wedlock if people didn't celebrate babies being born out of wedlock? If it was really shunned and really frowned upon, and your friends
Like
would
it was,
legit,
though.
like where it used to be, like where your friends
yeah.
would borderline stop talking to you or things
are you
like
saying we
that.
should bring
And that's just
shame
an
back?
example. That's just an example
Never.
of the type of things that women kind of have this standard, but the women in their network aren't holding them to that and are not holding them accountable. It's never anybody going against the grain, It's always a lot of hype
you
and support.
Go, girl. I wouldn't do it, but you go, girl.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like one of the most pivotal points you made is you don't expect anything you don't have, right? And even if you have it, that shouldn't be your expectation. I think Colton was hitting on the intangible characteristics that a human should have that don't relate to money, right? And a lot of those things relate around trust, standard moral character, being an overall arching good person, right? Those things you cannot put a price tag on. And those things are some things that you also can set as a standard that should not waver. And then the other things can kind of come after that.
For example, Dorothy, what are some intangibles being divorced, being somebody, like you said, who've been around both your parents and stuff like that? What are some intangibles that the next guy should have? Taking money off the table, like what are just some general characteristics that you think should be measured a lot higher than financial? Not a lot higher, but be measured more than financial.
mental stability.
Okay, elaborate on that a
Like
little bit.
that sounds very simple, but
Y'all make us crazy though.
no. Finding somebody who is just mentally stable, who knows how to decompress, who knows how to unload and kind of stay at an even kill. Like I feel like people are so anxious or on like a fast track that they can't like almost like kind of live in a moment, kind of like they just all over the place in a sense. So mental stability is number one for me.
Okay, now can I ask you a question in regards to that? At what age were you when you got married?
I was 31.
Okay. Do you feel like you looking back on it? Do you think do you feel like you wish you would have got married sooner, or still waited to the age you were at? Okay. Why not?
Now, definitely in my 20s, who I was dating at the time, we were both. I was engaged to someone else before I got married to someone.
Okay.
So in my 20s, we just weren't there.
Okay.
I definitely grew up a whole lot in that relationship and knew exactly what I wanted after that one. And me and my ex-husband met, and he was perfect. I mean, the only thing we ever kind of butted heads over is, like how our family life would be, because we were kind of raised very differently. I wanted kids, he not so much. So,
Okay.
you know, and definitely in my 30s, I know exactly what I want. Like, I'm not iffy on what I need and want from a man.
Okay. Now,
Does
what
he-
what
does
what
he
in,
have
what in,
kids?
what intangible things did he have? Because there had to be something that if you knew he didn't want to have kids, there must have
Oh
been
no, I didn't know that
something
in the beginning.
you didn't know in the
I didn't know
beginning.
that in the beginning.
So, and whenever you all were dating, he said, "I want to have kids,"
Yes.
and then whenever you
Well,
got
he already
married, he
had
changed
kids.
his mind. Okay.
He decided later he didn't want any more kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why,
Yeah.
he decided in the marriage that he no longer wanted to have children.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, do you feel like that was a very big barrier, and for you all to remain married?
That was a huge deal breaker for me because I definitely want kids. I'm the last child of 5. I grew up very much on family life, like family gatherings, just coming from like a family unit. So I definitely want to have that. And he was definitely taking a part of me that all I kind of lived my life around family.
Right. Now,
So that was
my
a deal
last
breaker.
question in regards to that is, did you all do marriage counseling?
Definitely, definitely.
Okay. And there was no positive result from that.
No, so he already had kids and a lot of drama around his kids, and he didn't want to put himself through that again with someone else if we didn't work out. So I couldn't blame him, you know.
How many children did he have?
Too.
Okay. Was he married before?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, what's your perspective on that? On what would you give? Would you raise caution to younger girls? What would you tell the 25-year-old you in regards to dating men and potentially marrying men that have been married before and have children from a previous marriage?
Don't.
That's real, though. That's real.
Oh wow!
That's real.
Because
That's real.
Wow.
So,
Okay,
he was the
explain
first
why a
person.
little bit.
Okay, so I've never dated anyone who had kids. He was the first
Okay.
person I ever dated that had kids. And I let everything else kind of outweigh the fact that he had kids.
Okay.
So whenever I don't have kids. So when you meet someone who has kids, you have to think about how less flexible they're going to be. Like where their priorities are going to lie, or where their priorities should lie, should always be with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
me not having kids, like I'm flexible on everything. I could get up and go tomorrow. I don't have any dependents. So meeting someone who has kids kind of put a limitation on your life. I mean, unless you
Absolutely.
can't have kids and you're ready to play stepmom and dive into that role. But for myself, like I like to live baggage free until I have my own kids.
Right. Now, it's a question for the fellas. We could take a quick poll real quick. Is it if a man has kids plural, and he is transitioning into a marriage, are his kids priority or is his wife priority?
I think.
I need to think on that.
Oh,
I mean,
I need to think
my
on that.
gut, my gut tells me immediately what I actually think. My kids are still priority.
Okay.
I
didn't
know
wanna go
it's
there.
not really the
Yeah.
right thing to say, and you kind of like, but no matter what the case is, my kids are a piece of me. Like
Yeah.
that's my legacy. Like I have to prioritize my children
kids.
first.
Kids are different because that's actually you.
Yeah.
Like it's always going to be different. That's actually you. Even like she says, dating a man with kids. I had a discussion the other day about dating women with kids. It's 9 times out of 10, you're third priority at best, being a man.
I'm glad you segued into that because that was going to be my
It's
question.
third priority at best because the kid, how you provide for the kid, and then me.
So, Duke, what is your opinion? Is your wife the?
It's my kids for sure.
Okay, so I would say the opposite. Because it would be I should not have the intention of being married if my wife is not going to be number one. Because okay, so let's say for instance you don't have children before you get married and you and your wife have kids.
Right.
Who's the priority, your wife or your children?
She's still the priority.
Your wife is the priority, right? We agree or disagree? on
Wait,
that? So let's say
if
for
me and my
instance,
wife, if me and my wife have kids,
you and your wife have you don't need everybody has a clean slate.
yeah,
You all get who's your priority, your wife or your children?
I think mutually our children are
Yeah, I
priority.
think
No,
both
what
of
is
us
your
will.
priority?
Yeah, what's your priority before
As
you
a-
get before the kids?
Oh, I
even
mean,
happen,
it's
right?
it's my
As-
wife because
as
I
a-
watch my dad tell me all the time, like, "Hey, if you don't do this, I'm gonna be in trouble." So
Right,
it
it's
was
your
definitely her
wife.
as the
Would you say
mom was
well, okay?
priority, but-
Pick one. Would you say it's your wife or it's your children?
That's tough, man.
She taking care of them, dog.
I mean,
Consider that.
I would in an ideal
tough for me to
world,
put
yeah,
them
in
in
an
on a
ideal
high-
world,
yeah,
I would
yeah,
think
it's tough
that
to do that.
I would
Yeah.
think our kids is our priority, like because as a man, I'm already gonna think about myself last. It's always gonna be my family, then me.
But if
And
you
when I
had,
say family, that's wife and kids.
no, okay, let me break it down for another scenario.
Okay.
Your wife is in labor, and the doctor says it's her or the child. Who do you pick?
The
See
wife.
what I'm saying?
Because you
Right.
you understand that your wife can
We can do it
replicate
again.
and
Yeah.
do it again if
Yeah.
need be. But do you sacrifice the woman that you say is your person that was you all are soulmates? You were placed on this earth for you all to meet.
but who would she
I
choose?
have to say something.
Who
I
would
have
she
to, I have to
choose?
jump
Go
on
ahead,
this
go ahead, Cole.
Because this is a very unique situation. But my brother and I discussed it yesterday, and it plays. It has a, it's close to the heart. So my grandmother, whom I've never met, she was told if she had kids, she would die. She tried to have 4 children. All 4 kids died. She then had my uncle and my dad, and then she tried to have another child and died after that. Every doctor that told her she would die and she should not do this or would not approve it, she felt like God put her on this earth to have children. And that was what she went. So that's a whole different perspective of it that we don't take into consideration.
Facts, yeah.
Where,
Because she's gonna choose the kid
Every time.
Yes.
every
Every
time.
time.
If it comes down to it, she's gonna be like, "Do not get the kid."
But by nature, that's correct because the child, she carries the child, she nurtures the child, she births the child, she brings the child into this world. So they have a different attachment
Yeah.
to the child in comparison to the man, where it was kind of like a one action thing.
Yeah.
You now bring this,
Playing
planted this
waiting game.
seed,
Yeah.
and now you're waiting 9 months. Whereas the woman has an attachment to the kid. So going back to it, would you say that a man that's transitioning to the original question of what Dorothy was saying, when a man transitions into a marriage and he already has children already, is the priority his children still, or is the priority now his wife?
I think, like you said, if he's getting to the point where he wants to be married, then he's kind of made the stage of, okay, she's gonna be priority number one.
Right.
But I still think
Given
just be
all of
just
the context,
I still
yes.
think
Because
it's
how
almost
because
like a
how
situational
Yeah,
type of
yeah,
deal.
yeah.
but it's like
situational.
how
like
can
I'm
you
marrying
have
her because we both know that my kids are a priority,
and she loves my
Yeah.
kids and priority.
Right.
My kids. So yes, I would say my wife is number one priority because I know that our number one priority is our kids.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I know for my kids to get the most from their mother and father, I have to make sure that my wife is number one.
Absolutely.
So she can be at her best.
because
So
she's
it's
what keeps
almost
the
like-
engine going.
Yeah, so it's almost a situational type of deal. Now, if it's because this is the first time I've dated a young lady who had a son, and I've never done it before. I said I would never do it, but then I also. I got some questions for you. All right, no, and I'll take because it was a transition for me because I was coming from a space from a social perspective of I'm not gonna mess with a girl that has kids. I never even
Right.
thought about it.
Absolutely.
But then I meet a girl and I'm like, okay, if I'm going to keep this guard up, I may be passing up the person who is perfect for me.
Absolutely.
So then when I met her, she has a son. And then my brother is divorced and now has a lady and he already had a child. So I had seen what can happen. But at the age I am now and the maturity level I'm at now, for me personally, not everybody, but I was able to say, I know she prioritizes her son first, but I'm okay with that because I don't need an overwhelming amount of attention from her for me to be happy and for me to function.
Absolutely.
But as our relationship developed, I now looked at her son not as his father because his father's around. Right. I looked at him as I want to set a good example for him, but I also want to support her because it makes such a big difference for a young man to have a man actually in the house.
Absolutely.
His dad's
yes.
raising him.
Yes.
How
he don't need
should.
to be raised. You don't need
to
to
be
raise him.
raised, but she needs support from a masculine presence
Partner.
in the home
But-
to give her some backup.
But
sometimes.
CP, isn't that like, doesn't that make you want her more that she prioritizes her son? Like, isn't that because you're looking at it and you're like, I want somebody to treat my kids just like that.
Well, Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know
and
what I mean?
will say, and I'm attracted to nurturers.
Exactly.
And I know that about myself.
Exactly.
And because
Same here,
if
man.
we would have met prior to her having a child, I don't know how our relationship may have gone. I'm not sure. Personality, when you become a mother, the nurturing aspect, you know, it just
You're supposed to grow up.
Yeah, flourishes. So,
Right.
I mean, supposed to. Yeah, supposed to.
Yeah.
He threw that
Well,
supposed to
and
in
she-
there real good.
And she's the type of person that she took total responsibility, all that stuff. And, you know, the nurturing aspect that she kind of exudes is good for me.
it's attractive,
And then I
like you
know
said.
my personality, not only is she a nurturer, but because she has a child, she's very prioritized budget, this, that, make sure my son has best situation.
She's
And
grown up.
I needed a companion who could help me budget financial, because I've always been like I'm a goer.
Yeah.
I'm a go get it.
And so many young mothers miss that. It's like, okay, you have to change now. You have a kid. And so whenever you are,
Still wanna
and
live.
so some people say it's impossible for, women who are our age that have a child first that's no longer with the father of that child to get a man of high character, high value, alpha male who's bossing. It's not impossible. It's just the fact that you one have to be realistic with yourself, and you have to change for the better so that alpha male, high value man is gonna say,
very
well,
PC way. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and say it and call a spade a spade. You got to work harder.
right.
If you have
do.
a child, right, and you're trying to go at a man, and this man, he has your interest, you have his interest, and you want him to choose you over the single chick that probably look better and has a better career, has a better trajectory, and she's younger.
And so, but I think, you said something real key though. I think the glue to your relationship is the fact that his father is involved,
Right.
and his father is raising him.
Yeah.
Well, but I think it also depends on the age of the child. If it would actually be really easy if he was 1, 2, 3 years old, dad was never around. I wouldn't say easy, but then it's almost
You got
he looks
more
to me as a
influence.
father
Yeah,
figure.
yeah.
The transition is
But-
much easier.
But her son was 8. He knows his thought
his
process,
daddy,
and he's a very smart and sharp kid, and he's very attentive to detail and to anything going on in the room. You know what I'm saying? So that did.
He needs he doesn't need a father. He needs a
No.
stepfather.
Yeah, he really
Right.
just
He just needs
well,
a
she just
presence.
needs-
When you get to
He
that
needs a
point.
presence. He needs a
Well,
presence.
it's certain things that boys get away with that women may not pick up on.
Absolutely.
And as soon as I started to be introduced as not just the friend, like this is a relationship.
Some authority, yeah.
Well, I started, and I was very cautious about putting setting him straight or calling him out.
You watched him.
Sometimes I would tell her like, hey, you need to nip this
Yeah.
in the bud now. But then once we got to a point where I knew I had his respect, even as a 9-year-old, I need to earn his respect
Yeah.
before I tell him what to do. That's when
Yeah.
that's when I
Right.
started letting her, like, I noticed there's little things that she would never notice, but because I'm a man and I used to be a boy, I ain't letting that shit slide.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
let me holler at you, player.
Yeah. And he needs that.
Responses to
Hey,
mom,
hey,
same thing.
Go ahead, Dorothy.
Does a man with kids have to work harder?
I mean, he has to
Look to the
have
left,
a lot of other great qualities.
You
I
said
mean,
what?
he has to. Everything else have to be a damn near a 10
See what I'm saying?
if coming with kids.
That's just what it is on both sides.
Yeah.
I think it's on both sides. So you have to be.
I mean, as long as it's on both sides, then they
Here's
can't
what
argue
throws
with
me off,
that.
though. Here's what throws me off. All right. So, a lot of men in that particular bracket often find themselves attracting single mothers, right? Those single mothers think that they're qualified, I'm using air quotes here, to actually take those shots, right? But when those men sit back and say, no, I'm good, you have a child, those men get belittled by those single mothers. How you gonna tell me? My child don't got nothing to do with you, yada, yada, yada. Though that line of thinking in and of itself is I hate to use this term, but I'm gonna throw it out there. It's delusional, bro.
But-
to sit back and say my child has nothing to do with you,
Because he had 100%, he or she has everything to do with me.
everything. It's a
Absolutely.
package deal.
I think
If you're gonna come into that home as a man, as a stepfather, pay
That's what you're
bills.
doing. First of all, that's what you're gonna be.
It's a
Oh,
thank
yeah.
people.
Off rip.
A stepfather say it's a thankless job.
first date.
But if you're gonna
Thankless
come in
job.
there, if you're gonna be responsible for the financial overhead
somebody
of
else's
somebody
seed
else's
now.
son, then you have direct authority
You should.
to discipline him.
Yep.
and you can have a relationship with his father to let the father know, hey,
Conversation.
this is my house. These are the expectations I have from your son. I know that you're raising him to be a respectable young man, but just let you know, this is my home. This is how I'm going to handle things. Are you in agreement? Are you in agreement with it?
And one thing, like I said, everything I believe is situational. One thing my girl did that made me more comfortable, because those thoughts were in the back of my head.
yeah.
Every time I'm like,
gotta
I
be.
mean, it would just be a lot easier if I was starting from scratch.
Yeah.
I used to take that into consideration a lot. Now it's non-existent. But I definitely went through an extended period of time that she didn't necessarily know, but I was doing a lot of thinking about it. And even before we got really into a relationship, I didn't meet him till we were 6-7 months in. I was like, not like a real, formal meeting. We may have gone and got like ice cream, and he just thought I was a friend or coworker or something like that. And we weren't telling him, lying to him. He just wasn't asking. So we didn't play.
He
it
just
that
knew
way.
he was getting ice cream.
But,
He didn't really care who got it. Yeah.
But what disarmed, like when you're saying she's like, this isn't your. She gave me so many opportunities to be out. Like she was like, you don't have to do it. Don't feel like you have to do this. I know it. We could just be.
That's humble.
Yeah,
that's humble.
She was like,
yeah,
but and that was very disarming for me, because it was like, okay, I had the feeling with other girls that may have had kids, like, you're trying to reel me in, so because you want somebody here.
She gave you a choice. She gave you choice.
She was like
flexibility. Men love flexibility.
She said she
we like options.
We love making it. We love thinking that a decision was ours.
Yeah.
We just talked about that. We just talked about
These
that.
are facts.
you know, like, what resonated for me when I knew I had the right one was overhearing her conversation with a friend of hers, saying, do you think, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm bouncing around, I don't have a typical, day-to-day job, 9-to-5 job. So a friend of hers asked, you think Colton will be able to provide if something happened to you, or you think Colton can provide? And she was like, well, first off, I can provide for myself. I don't need his money, but I am 100% confident if something were to happen, Colton would handle everything. And for me, it was like, oh damn, this
trust.
could be my wife.
That
This like,
trust.
now
that's a
that
wife.
was the last, like, anything that was in question, it was like,
That's
because
a
she
wife.
knew I was listening. She didn't know I heard it.
Right.
And I was like,
But she took.
oh,
but
shit,
the
right,
thing
yeah.
is, like, unknowingly, she took that doubt away.
Yeah. Because like, he's got it under control. He can do it. And then for me, that like almost like ignited emotionally. I'm an emotional person. It was like, not only does she trust me with her, but she trusts me with her son if something were to happen.
That's key.
And that's
Wait,
a whole nother level.
Hold on, dude. Hold on, because I want to make sure that we taking advantage of Dorothy. Do you think that it's an unrealistic expectation simply because in the back of their mind they don't trust that it can happen? Like, take the man making 100K. Like, we're saying, like, some of these expectations for men are unrealistic, but it's like in the back of their mind, do they really believe that they can obtain this? You know what I mean? Or do
Yeah, they believe that.
No,
Yeah.
but who are they empowering to do that? Because if you really believe that your man could be 100K, then you should believe that for a 40K man and take him to a 100K man. You know what I mean? If that's what you really believe that you can have.
Well, the difference between what you're saying is work.
Facts. True.
Some women don't want to work. They want it to just be gift wrapped in a box with a red bow on top. And hey, I have my degree. I'm fit.
They start.
I look
quoting off what it
good.
is,
Yeah.
I deserve this.
Yeah.
And that's a common theme amongst women is I deserve. Nobody deserves nothing but for what they work for.
Exactly.
And so
I had to learn that early.
And so if men and women begin to put in the same work ethic equally in relationships, the playing field changes, because a lot of times it's the man that's working to get the woman. Nah, you a king. Make her also work to keep you. Right?
Now, just to go back, Colton, because I don't want to miss it.
And Dorothy, we'll let you go in a second, okay?
You said something heavy. You didn't mean to hear what she said. You heard it in passing.
Yeah.
So the fact that she respected you behind closed doors is
Absolutely.
what made you say, oh,
Yep.
boom. So in that space, it was the respect for your manhood and your ability to go get it that made her say, I trust this man. For who
And she
he
defended
showed.
you too. She defended you. That's key.
And I have to be honest about something too, though. Oh, go ahead.
Real quick. Now, let's take into consideration what we see throughout social media, right? Right? Oh yeah, this if he ain't doing that. Y'all seen that junk that said if he ain't taller than today's date,
That dude don't talk to me.
man.
Yeah,
that's
that's
my
right.
phone.
Yeah, because it was June 3rd, and I was pissed because I couldn't say nothing either. Oh, man, yeah.
Here's why that
I wasn't
throws
even
me
close.
off. Listen.
Oh, man, I ain't like that one.
past
Yeah, I ain't
May,
like
I
that one at all.
can't
I ain't like that one at all.
Here's why it made me
Anything
low-key
after
tight.
June, don't post it.
Because keep in mind, we supposed to protect and respect black women, right? In that space, they tell us stop the body shaming, stop this, stop that, right? But you just said, you basically made it even if it's said in jest, because the truth comes out in what? Jest, right? So we may be kikiing ha ha ha, but we saying real shit.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So y'all kikiing ha 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 and reposting saying yada yada yada.
But you mean it.
But you mean it.
But you mean
so
it.
it shows
Yeah.
a lack of respect
Absolutely.
for men in general, because you just said if you ain't this, then you ain't shit.
I say it often,
You feel
man.
what I'm
I say
saying?
it
So,
often. I don't
to
know if
Cole's
modern
point,
women revere us,
They
man.
don't. I don't think they do. I won't say that they don't. This is my opinion. It is not a fact. I have no studies that show. Let me say this in the mic. I have no studies that show that
You know, we the
women,
kings
black
of the
women in
stats.
particular, do not respect black men. All I have is the collective experiences and statements, aka all my, I don't want to use that word, all my people, brethren, etc., who have spoken to this fact. If we put half of the stuff we said out right now, I guarantee you 90% of men would be like, hell yeah. You feel what I'm saying? And if that's the case, then we can't be too far off from the quote unquote fact or truth.
Absolutely.
And so going back to Colton's point, you know what I mean? This woman respected him behind closed doors. This woman said, I'm not going to put no bullshit out on his name, right? Simply,
Or let anybody else do it.
anybody
Yeah,
else
yeah,
do
yeah.
it.
Right.
That girl, whoever that friend was like, I don't know, girl. He probably don't got it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
bull.
But
right?
see, it's crazy because it's like, why is the friend doubting you?
Boom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
Like,
that's
don't
the
even know
that's
me.
the general lack of respect. Though,
Yeah.
Because what do women ask? What's the first thing women ask when somebody says, "Oh, I'm interested in this man"? Oh, what does he do? So effectively, it ain't about you.
Yeah.
They don't respect you.
But your resources.
Thank you. And so in that space, if you're a provider, that's all they care about. So they want security. All right, bet. Boom. If that's the case, then what am I getting for that deal?
And
You
one,
feel me? We making a transaction. Are you worried about how much I'm making? You worried about if I can provide? You worried about if I'm doing X, Y, and Z? Let's talk about it.
and I gotta add to that, being 100% honest.
And Cole, I'm gonna let you make the last point.
Yeah, that initial reaction, the first reaction I had wasn't the best reaction. I actually heard it and it pissed me off. But when you talk about your network is your net worth, same thing when it comes to a relationship. I called my best friend, Luns, a lot of y'all know James. I called him and I was actually livid. I was like, bruh, you ain't gonna believe what her friend. She said this, man, and I didn't even get a chance to tell him my emotions. I told him the story. He said, "Damn, nigga, don't that shit make you feel good when your girl got your back?" I said, "Oh shit, I didn't even process it that way." Because all I was mad about was
The
over
friend,
saying
yeah.
the disrespect.
Yeah.
I said, and then I told him probably 2 weeks later, I was like, "Bruh, you changed the game for me, my perspective, because it was a perspective change." But most niggas I would have called and told would have been like, "Man, fuck her," like the other girl. But my boy's like, "Bruh,
But that's why it's important who your friends are, man.
Exactly.
But you know, to wrap it all up, I know we lost Dorothy. She made her hop back on, so we can tell her thank you. But
She made some good points, too.
yeah,
She was
get her back on.
She was preaching.
But Dorothy, can you hear us?
Yes, sorry.
Oh yeah, I want you to come back on so we can tell you thank you. You know, we gentlemen,
Absolutely.
of course. So we just
Thanks
want to say
for having
thank
me.
you. Thank you for coming on. We got to bring you back, man. Bring some of your friends too that disagree with her, so we can.
Bring them to the comment section. That's when we fire everybody up anyway. Yeah.
But thank you, man. Thank you for coming on. We definitely appreciate your time.
Thank you guys for having me. I look forward to doing it again. And
Oh, yeah, for
definitely I'll
sure.
gather the girls and
Yeah. And make sure y'all sit around. You know, we'll drop the links in the group chat. Send the episode out to them so we can see what their comments are.
yeah, I have some very opinionated friends, so
Oh yeah,
yeah.
perfect.
That's our favorite.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's our favorite friends.
All right, I appreciate it.
all right, you guys have a good one. Enjoy your Sunday.
Thank you.
So all in all, fellas, the very, very good conversation. I think realistic expectations have to happen in order for healthy relationships to happen. Then there has to be a shift in that, and we have to get a new standard. You know, if social media is your standard, you need to do some soul searching. Start looking at your friends around you. If you don't have any friends, you need to look in the mirror, because your reality is a reflection of you and what vibrational plane that you're on. So you want high expectations, you got to vibrate high. You know, if not, that means that you're in a lower vibration. So all in all, do women have unrealistic standards and high expectations for men that they deserve or may or may not deserve? We'll find out. Thank you. SoulvenirBBE.com. That's all I'm going to say. Handcrafted lotions, balms, oils, men and women. Matter of fact, I'm wearing the Goodwood right now, the best smelling stuff on the market. And of course, I'm biased. It's my little sister's business. Make sure you support her. Black owned, by a woman, 6-figure business, grinding, working hard. SoulvenirBBE.com. And Soulvenir Bath and Body on Instagram. Tap in, follow, subscribe. Most importantly, make sure you buy something. Buy something for your mom or daddy, everybody. Buy up the whole store. Make sure you support. What's going on? It's Aaron, your CEO and producer of Black Fly on the Wall. We appreciate you watching today's episode, but guess what? You can't leave just yet. Come on back. Reel it back in. Make sure you tap that subscribe button. Like, share, subscribe. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the support. It is much gratitude towards you. Make sure you share it with your friends. We're a Black man providing Black people with premium content. And most importantly, we're providing Black men with a safe space to communicate. So what better way to do that other than subscribe to stay up to date with our latest content? We appreciate the love. Make sure you subscribe today. Thank you.